Beautiful. Management and recovery. The team put together a great piece here. This is a continuation from the piece we did last week because so many people really got a lot out of it. They liked it. Let's go to the first slide, Beth. In this one, we're going to look at just options instead of spreads. Last week, we looked at iron condors and things. This week, we're just going to look at individual options. When trades don't go our way, there's a natural impulse to close them before they get worse. So letting a loser ride, we saw last week, in a lot of cases, letting losers ride, especially with wide iron condors, it gives you a chance to let them turn around. So how does early trade management affect the rate of an occurrence of large losers and their rate of recovery? By looking at past performance of early management, we can have more context when faced with a losing trade in the present. What we found is that, we know that managing early eliminates tail risk. That's really important. But what else can we learn about managing early or waiting a little bit longer? Let's take a look. Let's go next slide. So we used 15 years of SPY data, and we looked at just naked options this time. 50 delta puts and calls, 30 delta puts and calls, 20 delta puts and calls. We observed the proportion of trades that reached loss thresholds of 1 times the credit received, half times the credit received, 1.5 times, and 2 times. So, like for example, if you sell something for $1, a half time is you buy it back at $1.50. If you sell something at $1 and you're 2 times, you'd be buying it back at $3, right? That's what that is. All right. So, so let's see, 2 times initial credit before 21 days, and what percentage of those recovered? Did they recover if you managed them before 21 days? We contrasted these to the frequency of losses and recoveries when holding through expiration. Let's look at the next slide.
Okay.
So we're going to get into some details here. It's going to be a little heavy for the next 6 slides, but let's take a look. So on a 50 delta option, which is the at the money option, chances of holding it through selling something and holding it through expiration. Now remember, because you're collecting a pretty big premium, the chances of reaching the half. So if you sell something, let's say you sell something for $5, the chances of holding through expiration and getting to $7.50 about 30%. Holding through expiration and having to buy it back at $10 about 11%. These are actually encouraging numbers. If you manage early, the 30% goes down to 11, the 11% goes down to 4.5, and the outlier move, which is the 3.5%, blowing you out, it goes down to 2%. Those are actually, those are the mathematical numbers, of holding through expiration and managing at 21 days. Now, what we're going to look at, these are the probabilities of that happening. Now, go to the next slide. So this is the chance of what are your recovery chances? Okay, if that happens, like what are the recovery chances? So what we looked at here was what percent of the time do you recover? If you hold through expiration, you obviously recover a significant portion of the time. 44% of the time. 34%, 27, and 28. If you manage to 21 days, you're basically conceding.
Yeah, you're right. You're basically conceding. Yeah.
You manage to 21 days, you're basically conceding. So again, what's the advantage? Go back to the first slide for a second, Beth, for a second. No, I'm sorry. Slide two. Sorry. So the reason that you manage to 21 days is because it takes that 30% down to 10%, and it takes that 11.4 down to 5. But if you wanted to make the argument, why would I ever hold? Go to the next slide. And the reason that you might want to hold, all right, just so you understand the statistics, is because 44% of the time, those losses come back. Or 34% of the time on the 1X, those losses come back to being profitable. And it doesn't happen when you manage the 21 days. You're just out and you move on to the next trade. So
I got you.
Which one is a better trade? Well, I'm going to argue that managing in 21 days is because even though you don't recover on the far outlier moves, you bring you free up capital, you reduce your risk, you're in the best part of the decay curve, and it makes the most sense to us. But sometimes people will throw out these statistics and they're like, well, I got a better chance of recovering if I just hold on. Sure.
I have time on my side. You also are going to have a P&L swing that might not make you comfortable in your overall portfolio too. So you have to have that tolerance for pain, I guess.
Yeah, but just understand, if you manage early, those trades are not going to come back, but you're going to effectively extending the duration, readjusting and doing whatever. Let's go to the next slide.
And another point would be you can't factor in a trade that you might put on that works for you with the same buying power that you're using when you're waiting for, the 73% that don't recover.
That's right. Let's go to the next slide. So now we'll go down to the 30 delta, and the numbers are going to be very similar. It's the hold to expiration is 45% chance that you're going to reach that loss in the 30 delta, 26, 15, 9, whatever, and it's a fraction of that at the managing in 21 days. Managing 21 days, you again remove most of your outlier risk. But how do the numbers look with recovery? If you're using the 30 delta, because we use 30, we don't use 50 delta a lot. We use 30 delta. Let's go to the next slide. And the recovery here is, you can see it's a fraction. If you manage at 21 days, you're not going to recover that much. If you don't manage at 21 days and you're selling those far out of the money options, you're going to recover more than half the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So remember, there's no. In everything we do, there's no theoretical edge. There's just this mechanical edge. Now, we would argue here, when you look at these numbers, you'd be like, oh boy, why shouldn't I just hold? And, we would argue, well, hey, you should manage. So. Let's go to 20 delta, which is really more along the lines of what we sell. So this is 20 delta option. You can see here that it's the same kind of layout. It's like, 40, it's 46, 50, whatever, 52, 44, they're all kind of the same ballpark. These are holding through expiration and managing at 21 days. These are the chances that you reach those loss thresholds. So if you manage at 21 days, there's, and you're talking about 1 times the loss, there's a 13% chance you're going to get there. If you're worried about 2 times the loss, a 4.5% chance. That's why we love the strategy. It's very low chance of getting in trouble. But go to the next slide. When you do get in trouble, the chance of recovery, if you manage early, is almost nil. The chance of recovery, if you manage, the chance of recovery if you don't do anything is pretty high on the 20 delta option. You're at the far end of the curve, market turns around a little bit. Who knows? Any of those reasons.
Sure.
Let's go to the last slide. There's a lot of stuff in here, like I said, but the numbers are really strong. Trades held through expiration that experience losses, large or small, during their duration are often managed to turn around before all was said and done. Trades managed at 21 DTEs, on the other hand, were much less likely to reach bad losses in the first place, but having done so, were also less likely to recover. In an inefficient market, there are no right or wrong answers. And there are no right or wrong answers when it comes to managing our trades. The important thing is to stay active while keeping the risk at a level that is acceptable to you. Like Tony mentioned earlier, there is a certain level of certain degree of difficulty when a trade goes really far against you and you don't know what to do and you haven't done anything against it. That makes that we take all the emotion out when we're doing this study, but we're still going to lean all over the 21 days and eliminate the tail risk.
100%. Totally agree with you. Let's take a quick 90-second break. We'll come back. We've got Mr. Scott Sheridan. Also, we'll go to your phone calls. If you light them up, we'll go early. 855-238-2789 or 855-BE-TASTY. Mr. Scott Sheridan, Tom Siloff, and myself will answer any question that may come your way. We'll be back in 90 seconds. Tasty Live.